After this weekend, it's time to turn the page.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC, part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day, whether you're watching the show on YouTube, wherever you want to download your podcast. This show is always free, and this show is always going to appreciate your support. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As the playoffs wound down, the sports, they're not sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all of their customers with a boost or bonus, and they're doing it daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. USC has just finished their 12th day of fall camp, all right? And for the next 2 days, Saturday, Sunday, actually Friday and Saturday, the media is going to be shut out. We're not going to be there. And once the weekend is done, it's going to be time to switch modes, turn the page. They're going to go from fall camp mode, and they're going to start working on game prep for the next 2 weeks. That's it. We have reached the halfway point. Can you believe it? So this weekend, it's going to go a long ways into determining the depth chart, the rotation, who plays, who doesn't, who's going to be happy, who's going to be unhappy, who's going to be asked to work harder, that type of stuff. So you'll start getting those starting positions. They'll be defined. When those first depth charts come out, it's going to be John or Bill. It's never John, then Bill, then Chad. You notice I'm making up facetious names. Doug Belk, USC secondary coach. If you want to know what non-committal sounds like when he was asked about his depth chart in the secondary, I mean, if you're looking for the classic example of coach speak, here you go. This was Coach Doug Belk after a recent practice. We have a pretty veteran group at the top. All those guys have been competing at a high level, and we still want them to compete. There's no ones and twos. There's A, there's B, and C. We mix those up every day. Different people at different positions at different times. A lot of it is just to stress them and see what they know and see how much we could continue to push them. So in one breath, they don't have ones and twos. They don't have that type of rotation, but they use the letters, the A, B's, and C's to kind of group them together. I think I understood where I was going with that, but this is why it's called coach speak. You really never get the answer you need to hear. You got to figure it out. Read the tea leaves. I mentioned this on yesterday's episode of Locked on USC. Coach Belk had also said, he hopes to play 8 to 10 defensive backs every game. And he wasn't talking about, working them into the special teams group. He said, I'm talking just defense in general. So the way he looks at it is hopefully that competition creates roles for several guys within the room, whether they start, whether they don't start. All the good teams that you see week in and week out, they have competitive depth. And I think that helps you from a big picture perspective, for sure, end quote. Anyways, once they transition from fall camp, and they go into the game prep mode. And by the way, I hope you keyed in on what he said there, competitive depth. We're going to talk about that in the next segment. But getting back to this topic, once you go from fall camp, you transition to what's called game prep week. USC is going to use 2 weeks to get ready for LSU. That means the starting quarterback has to be named. You can't just keep stretching it out because that the starter needs to take more reps than the backups. The offensive line, okay, they need to know who's going to be out there for the first snap. And the backup roles, those need to be identified. They need to be more readily defined. As far as the running backs and wide receivers, if we're talking about the offense, those positions are more interchangeable, right? They're constantly being subbed in, play after play, package after package, series after series. So I'm not concerned about the depth of the rotation at running back or wide receiver. We know who those top guys are. Zachariah Branch, Jacoby Lane, Deuce Robinson, Mekhi Lemon, Kyron Hudson. But then what are the other guys? What packages do they fit in? So I don't want to say that they're already in game prep mode. However, I think they're starting to inch closer and closer to that. Thursday's practice with the media, we were literally rushed in and rushed out. We came, we saw, and then we were asked to get out as quickly as possible. I mean, when our time was up, it was like, hurry, let's go, let's go, let's go. Literally, we were told, put a pep in your step. And the reason we were being hurried out of practice is because the offense was lining up on one sideline. The defense and Cardinal, they were lined up on the opposite sideline. They were going into a live team session. Despite being in shorts and shells, it was a time to kind of, like I said, get into that game prep mode. Start running some of their installs. The whole mission was get the media, get everybody out of practice because they didn't want us to see who the starters were going to be for that live session. I mean, it was kind of funny, but at the same time, it was like, really? You're shooing us out of here? It's okay. We know what we're not supposed to talk about. By the way, on that note, real quickly, to the listener who thinks I was giving away too much because I said they were practicing the flanker screens, trying to teach the wide receivers the proper way to block. Did you really think that comment through before you hit the send button? Seriously. Anyways, back to our regularly scheduled program. Starting on Tuesday next week, and then for the next 2 weeks, the team will be officially in game prep mode. They will have turned the page. Fall camp is over. They're going to move the practices into the afternoon. We're still going to be going 3 times a week for the time being. But this is also about the time when you switch from fall camp and you go into game prep mode. This is when Rehab Island starts to become a popular place to hang out. Rehab Island is what I call the injury report, where guys are working their way back in to practicing full time, taking off the yellow practice jersey, no contact, that type of stuff. It's just the facts of life, right? Football players get hurt. Ankles get rolled up on. Stuff happens. You got to deal with it. So fall camp is going to wrap up with practices on Friday and Saturday. They're off on Sunday. They come back again on Monday without the media. And then Tuesday through Thursday, we're there. I'm going to be able to explain to you the differences between what we saw in the first 2 weeks when they were, finger quotes, under fall camp protocol to when they switch into game prep protocol. That's the stuff I'll be able to look at, see what they're doing differently. And I'll be honest with you, don't anticipate too much of a change. First thing we're probably going to see, special teams guys, just like we did today, making sure, for instance, Ryan Doherty, the special teams coordinator, what he works with, there's a few of the wide receivers who are back there, seeing if they're going to fit the role. A wide receiver has a tendency to want to catch the ball at the highest point, cupping their hand. You don't want to receive punts and kickoffs that way. Coach Doherty was like, no. Don't do it like that. Make sure you're bringing it in like this. So, for all of you who are harping out there about special teams, they are working on it. So again, we come in, we see special teams, we see the bulk of the team are over there doing their skip and stretch on the conditioning session, part of practice, and then they break us down. The linebackers, offensive line, defensive line group, defensive backs, they're all doing their thing. We'll see if they switch any of that up. I anticipate we're going to see that before they kick us out of practice again and go into All right, let's see who's available, who our starters are, who the backups are, getting everybody ready for USC versus LSU. Yeah, 2 weeks away. 2 weeks away. That's how much time flies. So fall camp's over, guys. Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, you're no longer kids. I'm going to talk about that's going to be part of my Friday rant. In the next segment, we're going to talk about competitive depth. Yep. I love USC football and USC basketball so much. I love sports. I wish I could watch USC football, basketball 24/7, 365. But again, as the playoffs wound down, we're getting fewer games. The Olympics are over. But college football's right around the corner. But you know what FanDuel does? It lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app, dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all of their customers with a boost or a bonus. And they're doing it daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head on over to FanDuel.com/locked-on and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. You know me, I like to say thank you. Thank you for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. For your second listen, have you checked out Locked On College Football yet? It's a really good podcast. Spencer McLaughlin's your host, and he's going to get you ready for the season. He's going to walk you through the conference realignment, the transfer portal, NIL, the new expanded playoff format, and anything else that's on your mind. Locked On College Football is available on YouTube and wherever you can get your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Is the competitive depth getting lost? I think it is. It's starting to thin itself out, even among the elite programs. This is what happens when the transfer portal and impatient players collide. This is one of the new paradigm shifts in college football. After his team's latest scrimmage, Georgia's head coach, Kirby Smart, he was spitting out some facts. Quote, "I feel like we have less depth than we've ever had." That's kind of a common theme talking to other coaches I talk to. I call it the deterioration of football because every year we've been here. I feel like we've had more players capable of going in and playing winning football, but every year that goes down. We've got to keep working to increase that number. Close quote. Yo, Coach Kirby, head coach Kirby Smart. When you have more competitive depth than most programs combined, it's hard to feel sorry for you. However, he is 100% correct, without a doubt. He went on. He said, quote, "It's a trickle-up effect. So we get the guys coming in from the high school level. We have the same number of players. So you can't blame the transfer portal for that. I think you lose some continuity in terms of guys that have been in the program multiple years, though. We have less guys that know and execute our system. We're not even really considered a portal team. I don't know how many we've averaged over the last 4 years. I can't imagine it's even double digits. We don't have many guys coming from that. It's not as much quality depth that I'm used to, but we probably have more than a lot of people." What Kirby was talking about was championship winnable quality depth. As these seasons get longer, we're going to the 12-team playoff format. That means there's going to be more games played, right? You got a 12-game regular season. You got the conference championship game. And you're going to have to win 3 games now to win the national championship. So we're now into a 16-game schedule. Last year was 15 games. They're already talking about going to 14 games, 16 games playoffs. You see where we're going with this? So having winnable quality depth that's at a championship level is what Kirby was kind of focused on. Because again, as these seasons get longer, you need to have guys who can come in when someone goes down. And excuse me, when that next person who comes in, next man up, you don't want to have that significant drop off in talent. It's not so much about talent, but it's about experience, knowing how to use that talent, use what you've learned. And if the next guy in is a freshman or maybe a second-year player, they don't have a lot of experience to draw on, right? I mean, Kirby Smart, for every Bear Alexander that USC has, he has 3. But this is what happens when you keep bringing in top-rated classes. The guys who have, maybe been in the system for a couple of years and getting developed, they start leaving for greener pastures. Other programs are saying, hey, I'll pay you. You've been learning over there. You've been developed. You're now ready to contribute here. That's the cycle that Coach Smart was talking about. The backup depth is always in that younger cycle. USC right now, they don't have the top-rated recruiting classes stacked on top of each other like they used to have back in the day. They're trying to get back to that level. They're trying to get back to what Kirby Smart's trying to deal with, what Ohio State has to contend with on an annual basis. The programs that are in the playoffs year after year. So if USC is going to go deep into the season, they're going to need to rely on guys who have been around, but maybe not played a ton. Guys like Solomon Tuliaupupu. I don't think people really understand or realize how long he's been at USC. When he came out of Mater Dei, he was considered the number one, he might have been the number 1 linebacker in the country. Definitely one of the top 5 players. So he missed the 2018 season. He missed the 2019 season. He missed the 2020 season. He missed the 2021 season. All of those with a long list of injuries, right? In 2022, he actually played in all 14 games. And when he was healthy, he contributed. He finished with 10 tackles, 2.5 including 2.5 sacks. Last year, he fell back into that injury cycle again. He's healthy again. He's been able to make it all the way through fall camp so far. That's me knocking on wood. USC's tight end Lake McRee. He said Anthony Lucas has always been a pain in the butt, to block when he's asked who's the most difficult pass blocking matchup in practice. But his second choice, right behind Anthony Lucas, Solo. Quote, Solo is healthy. He's really strong. He knows how to use his body really well. He's been getting in the backfield a lot. I'm glad he's back. I hope he can stay healthy. I know he works really hard. When he's healthy, he's really good. Guys like Solo, despite not playing a lot because of injury, they know how to use their bodies. Guys like Jamil Muhammad, Anthony Lucas. And then, there's some nice young talent on the outside as well. You got Braylon Shelby, David Peavy, Cameron Fountain. So again, on the outside, there's talent, but is there championship level talent? If we're comparing it to Georgia or Ohio State, guys who have been in their system. On the inside for USC, you got Carlon Jones, you got Ratumana Bulabalavu. I mean, even Elijah Hughes, they're still learning that part of the equation. They're still learning how to use their bodies. So you got Bear Alexander, you got Gavin Meyer, you got Nate Clifton. After that, does USC have the championship level quality depth that you need? Here's another guy that we can talk about. People ask me about him all the time. Devin Tompkins. He's now starting to create some attention. He's been at USC. This is his 3rd season. He was part of the 2022 class. When he came to USC, he was 230 pounds. Now, 285 pounds. Quote, he's one of those guys that's really been transformed in the weight room, Coach Riley said. I think how we are playing fits him better. I think schematically fits him. He's got a little bit more confidence. I believe right now in his body, what we're doing schematically. Tompkins was a solid scout team performer this past 2 years and gave some of the starting offensive linemen fits, but he needs to develop a belief in himself. I think at times he's been good enough. He's got to believe that too, though. He's the most important one. I think he believes in himself more than he ever has. He's playing confident and aggressive. That's Coach Riley talking. Jamil Muhammad, he senses something similar. He thinks Devin is ready to be a part of a championship level depth. That's my guy. He's been grinding since I got here. He's very energetic. He was talking about that time he's waited, the energy he's put into everything, and everything he was going to do, everything he was going to go for last year. So I'm intrigued to see what he does this year because I know he's hungry. Devin Tompkins is exactly the guy that needs to be on the field for USC this year. So he doesn't develop that Rayleigh Brown, feeling. You don't want to see him in the transfer portal next year, fully developed at USC for 3 years, and the fruits of those labor showing up somewhere else. Can't have that. That's what Kirby Smart's talking about. He's starting to feel that. He brings guys in, he develops them, they end up somewhere else. Again, USC, at least right now, they are not in a position to allow all that time they invested into Devin's development. They can't let him show up, play well this year, get enough game film to the point where other programs are going to say, hey, I got some money for you. I got more playing time for you. Why don't you come on over? This is how the transfer portal, this is how NIL is affecting programs and their level of depth. Championship level. And that's what Coach Kirby Smart was talking about. And it's a rich man's problem to have. USC needs to get there. But once you get there, it's maintaining it. This is the problem with the transfer portal. There's got to be some guardrails put in place. I don't know what they're going to do. Eventually, they're going to have to get it figured out. I'm sure, like me, a lot of you probably spent a lot of time growing up going to your favorite Major League Baseball park. I was always hanging out at Dodger Stadium. Going to baseball games has gotten really expensive. Parking has gotten really expensive. But with killer last minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show your total up front, and that way you know you're getting a great deal before you check out. And you can buy your tickets in seconds. It'll take you 2 taps and you'll be done. USC fans, LSU fans, have you gotten your tickets for the game in Vegas yet? You're running out of time. But Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event. And even an hour after it starts, it's the place to find last-minute seats. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always find the best price. Because if you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKE, D like David, ON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Last week, we took a break from my Friday rant. I had a special guest, Eric McKinney. He joined the show. I'm flying solo today. Friday Rant is back. And I got to get this off my chest. I really do. Look, I have always been a big proponent of the players. Still am. Always going to back them up. But it's time to change the paradigm, the way we view things. Time to shift things around. Time to change the way we treat the recruits. Because if they're going to start playing big boy games, making adult money, hey, like I said, if you want to use name, image, and likeness to advance yourself, all the power to you. Go make it happen. Go get yours. But I'll tell you what, if you want to play adult games, make adult money, I don't care if you're 16 or 17 years old. I'm going to criticize you like you're an adult. You don't get to have your cake. You don't get to eat it too. It's time to grow up. For me, this is how you change the paradigm. It's all about the narrative. It's time to stop calling these young men kids. They're not kids anymore. The paradigm has shifted. These are young professionals. Remember, starting in 2025, they become employees of the university that they're going to be paid to play college football. I've talked about this before recently on the show. Fans' patience with Juju Lewis starting to wear thin. And it's starting to wear thin because he's not shutting his recruitment down. Everyone can say, oh, he's solidly committed to USC. He's been committed since August of 2023. That's fine. But if you're not going to make it public and you're just going to ride slowly into Los Angeles when it's time to put on the uniform, basically at your own convenience, you should probably anticipate some blowback. Again, I understand what your birth certificate says. I just don't want to hear, leave him alone, let him enjoy the process. He's just a kid. No, not anymore. Again, I don't care what the birth certificate says. You're not a kid anymore when you're collecting paychecks. And I'm not talking about, your first job at McDonald's type of paycheck. Significant money, significant financial resources, cars, paid trips. As far as Juju is concerned, there's nothing left in the process to experience. Okay, look, I mean, you're getting paid to make appearances at camps, at throwing combines. You're getting paid to show up on campuses. And this isn't specific to Juju. But that's what the elite recruits are. They're taking advantage of this type of stuff. And when I say taking advantage, if someone's offering it to you, take it. But, all of a sudden now, you see players starting to drop in the star ranking system. And then these players get upset. And they take it out on the recruiting rankings or the industry rankings that are rating them. Once again, I have no issue with milking the system, squeezing whatever you can. But again, it means you're open to criticism. And just because you're 16 or 17, that doesn't mean you're a kid. That same 17-year-old, they're going to be 18, some of them in a few months. And some of these kids that are in high school, they're 18, they're 19, they've been held back. When aren't they a kid anymore? And again, I don't want to get into semantics. Well, Mark, you're 50-something. They're 18. They're still a kid. Yeah, I guess. They're not my kid. They're not my grandkid. I'm going to use Caleb Williams' words. I can't make my point any more clear. Caleb Williams said it best when he said, I'm not a businessman. I'm a business man. Well, you know what? Businesses aren't kids either. They're an entity. And if you want to be treated like you're a business, guess what? I'm not going to treat you like a kid. Your parents can do that for you. Probably not a good lesson, but you understand where I'm going with that. It's time to change the way we're judging college football and the players, because look, college football right now, it's becoming more and more professional every day. High school recruits, they're treating it like they're interviewing at the NFL Combine. And that's great. More power to you. If you're going to treat it as like you're an adult, see where I'm going with this? You're not a kid anymore. I mean, technically you are, but if you're going to be making 6 figures, 7 figures in NIL deals, you're getting paid. It's the facts of life. If you want to grow up fast, we're going to help you get there. I'm going to stop calling you a kid. How's that? That's it for this episode of Locked on USC. I'll be back with more. Got another 5 episodes coming up for you next week. We're getting really close to the season. I cannot wait. I'll be back out there at practice next week. Anything else that comes down the pipe, I'll keep you updated. And when you're not making Locked on USC, when you're done making Locked on USC your first listen every day, make sure you're heading on over there to wearesc.com. We got a ton of content for you. We're going to keep putting out for you this weekend. So until that next episode, everyone, you know what to do.